Hello, Coach.
Hello.
We'll go ahead and get started. First question, Adam Spolin.
Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. In your time in the league, have you noticed a difference in a team's mood in the days leading up to the deadline and then once you get past it?
Absolutely. For sure. I mean, the trade deadline is a really hard thing for a lot of guys, especially now because of social media and the attention on the NBA, and like that's what the NBA is for, right? It's the maybes and the entertainment part of it and the speculation. But you're dealing with real people, and you're dealing with their not just their basketball game going from team X to team Y, but possibly having to uproot their family and getting maybe pulled out of a situation that they like or don't like, or there's just so many parts to it. So the anxiety that comes along with potentially being a part of a trade and trade deadline definitely weighs on a group around this time for sure.
Do you feel it any differently with your team, considering where you are in the standings and just some of the contract situations that some of your guys have right now?
I wouldn't say I feel it, but it's just another kind of thing that we deal with and it's hanging over. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation going around, not just with our team, but every team. So every team's kind of going through it, and it's a normal thing. I wouldn't say it's very like tangible with our group, but yeah, it's a thing. It's for sure a part of kind of the anxiety prior to trade deadline and then the exhale after trade deadline if as the dust settles.
Jonathan Fagan.
Along the same lines then, do you address it to the group as a whole or to individuals? And even just as an organization, do you keep guys informed about possibilities or just kind of how do you handle it?
Yeah, as you know, I try to kind of stick to the controllables. And if there are any conversations had, it's basically control what you can, and everything else around you, all the things that you can't control are distractions and possibly taking away from the goal at hand. So yeah, it's just one of those things where it's a delicate thing because you don't want to kind of address rumor, right? Like at this point, everything is rumor. And if you start addressing one rumor after the other, it gives credence to it and it makes it more of a thing than it possibly could be. So there is a kind of fine line that you walk as trade deadline approaches. But for me, I haven't really addressed it with too many guys because we have a lot more going on than just potential or whatever Twitter is saying or whatever the experts are saying about our team.
Ali Kambajani.
Hey, Stephen, with how you're using Christian in different spots on the floor and now him being a starter this season, defenses are obviously focusing more on Christian as one of the focal points of the offense. How do you think he's fared adjusting to that change this season as the season has gone on?
He's adjusted well. There are times, I think, when he's in the corner sometimes and he's being guarded by a guy who we know is a shot blocker and we know is going to be helping off of him. There are times where I know there are times where he feels like he's kind of outside of what we're doing. When he's at the top of the floor, he is catching it, screening, rolling, very much a part of what we're doing and creating action as opposed to kind of waiting for the action to happen and reading whether his man helps or not. So that's an adjustment for him. And that's something that isn't like an every game thing, but there are certain games where we'll move him around and put him in the corner some and use his shooting ability to make it hard on the defense. But overall, to answer your question, he's done a really good job of, doing a lot, whether it's catching it up top and dribble a handoff, whether it's screening and rolling, whether it's rolling and then not getting it and then coming back out and setting a flat pick and rolling again or popping. And the roll pop part is something that takes time to kind of get that chemistry between guards and Christian, because you don't want him rolling all the time. You don't want him popping all the time. And the more you play with a guy, the easier it is to know whether he's rolling or popping. And, that's just, he hasn't been with us long enough for us to kind of get that chemistry and continuity together. But to answer your question, long-winded, he's doing a great job.
Brian Bearfield.
Coach, could you tell us who your starters is for tonight, and what did you learn after facing Charlotte last month, one of the lowest points in the season, by scoring 7 points in the fourth quarter? What changes will you all make going up against them tonight?
Yeah, so I'm not going to say who our starters are, but I watched the game. We were so different than we are now. I mean, John didn't play that game. Cuz and Tuck were in the lineup. Mason Jones was in the lineup. Like, we were just very different than we are now. We obviously want to get the ball up the floor quickly, and having the versatility of Christian, obviously, as you've seen over the last few games, helps us. And he wasn't in that game, and we didn't necessarily have the versatility, especially down the stretch when plays need to be made. You go to a guy and you say, get us a bucket. He has the ability to do that as well as John. So without both of those guys in the game, in that game, it was hard. We definitely didn't execute the way we wanted to execute, and then have to do a better job of that. I thought Biyombo really changed the game with his energy and effort the last time we played him. So matching or exceeding his energy and effort, if that comes to it in the fourth quarter, is going to be a big key.
Ben DeBose.
Coach, a two-part question. First off, what's the availability of Kevin for tonight? And second, moving forward, you haven't really had a game in which you had all three of your point guards, John, Kevin, and DJ, really since the Augustine trade, together at once. Whenever that happens, be it tonight or later, do you anticipate a little bit more sort of 2 point guard lineups, if you will?
For sure. It's going to be another adjustment, work in progress. He's questionable for tonight. I'd be surprised if he played, speaking of Kevin. But with John, Kevin, and DJ, there will be some lineups where either guy can bring the ball up the floor. We can initiate with one guy on one side and bring it to the other guy and get some sort of actions. And actually just put a play in a couple games ago where we just swing it through the 5-man and get to action on the weak side, just so regardless of who has the ball on the strong side, the other guy gets to touch it and gets to play pick and roll. So coming up with different ideas for guys who have the ability that our guys have is my job. So I'm thinking a lot about that and how I can make sure that everybody is able to play to their strengths, whether they're on or off the ball.
We'll take three more. Adam Spolin.
You brought up Christian playing in the corner sometimes. And on Sunday, he talked about how he'll feel left out of the offense sometimes when he's there. Do you ever have to, not necessarily with him, but with any player, maybe show them how they're impacting the game when maybe they don't feel like they're impacting the game?
Absolutely. I mean, that's coaching, right? Like, a lot of coaching is showing guys when they are doing something maybe that is you're not kind of part of the action, or you feel like it's just like, why am I doing this? Part of coaching is showing a guy, this is why we have you in this position, and this is how it helps the group. And it really takes it off the individual and helps a guy kind of figure out how he can help the group play better. So yeah, that's kind of another work in progress as we go forward. But, having him all over the floor is good for our team because he attracts so much attention. And when he's in the corner, he can either catch and shoot, or if the ball goes to the wing, he can come right up out of the corner, which is a hard pick and roll to defend, and we can play pick and roll, pick and roll that way. So yeah, that's just coaching. You gotta show them, you gotta explain why and how it helps the group, and it's on them to buy in, and we have a good buy-in from this group.
Jonathan Fagan.
Other than Kevin, is everybody else that was not listed as injured, is everybody available?
No, Victor's not available. As a personal thing going on, and unfortunately, he won't be playing tonight.
Ali Kambajani. Ali Khan.
Okay, there we go. I wasn't able to mute. Sorry about that. Stephen, wanted to ask you just about something about yourself. So as a first-year head coach, did you have goals or expectations before the start of the season that you've met already, or have you changed or adapted any of your personal goals or expectations as a head coach through the season based on what's been going on?
Yeah. This has been like I guess when I took the job, it was a completely different job than it is now, right? Like there was a different team, and there was different expectations, and there was just a lot of stuff going on, and kind of having goals when you're trying to manage all of that stuff and trying to keep the group together and trying to kind of wade through all of the injuries and the COVID and the craziness of this schedule, which I've shared with you guys a lot. It's just been, kind of hard to like just focus on the goal at hand. It really has been almost like a game to game deal where we're trying to figure out who's going to play from game to game, but also kind of creating a culture. And that has been, it seems like it's moving in the right direction as far as like the structure of things and how we are kind of progressing. But that's an ever-changing thing this season because of the circumstances. And so to answer your question, yeah, the goals that I had prior to the season are very different than what they are right now. And that's, I think, one of the first words that I used, maybe even in my press conference, my initial press conference, was adaptability. So my goal ended up being that, which is being adaptable and making sure that things are moving in the right direction.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.